It's been what 20 some years since uh, my youngest was just a child, and I was kind of a stay-at-home mom for a while when
A
we first
stay-at-home mom?
keep
You were a stay-at-home dad, but
stay-at-home
you
dad.
could have
Yes,
been a mom if you wanted to be.
well, anyway, and I was very routine about how I did things. And one of the big factors we used to do was every Friday we would go shopping. And in fact, we got so frequent in it that the one of the ladies down there at the supermarket got to know us. So we'd have to one when we finished, we always had to go to her lane and make sure it was
Gladys.
her thing. Gladys, yeah, that's right. Um, and we used to have such a great time doing it. I'd plan it out beforehand, which I still do some of that now. But we used to plan out what was needed and where to go. But we'd always spend quite a bit of time in the produce section. We didn't get that book out, but we have this book called How Are You Peeling? And it talks about um, how they put characters' faces on these different vegetables and
It's a
all.
it's a picture book of vegetables in their
And
natural state, but positioned in a way that they look like faces and things, and they go through all the different emotions.
so
Um,
I would open the book up and we'd search for different ones and I'd have them we'd go find it and I always played with the bag and we just had a great time. We spent probably a half hour just in the produce section,
Talk
of
about the
it.
whole bag thing. That's funny.
What's that?
Talk about how you'd play with the bag.
Well, I would do all kinds of stuff. I'd put my hand in it, make a puppet out of it, or I'd blow it up and pop it, or just to get and he would just laugh and laugh and laugh at it. So we enjoyed it, and when he got a little older, he would walk around and pick stuff up for me and stuff, and load it into the basket, and it was just a really enjoyable time that we had to do, and I think that's kind of what we're talking about today is planning these things and enjoying the time they do with it. We did that with, I think you did it with the two kids at the time and planning a lot of that stuff out. So it was a good time. It was a good time to do all of that. So, hello, this is Don,
And this is Gina with Focused Healthy Family.
and this is podcast number 168. And today we're going to be talking about to the market to buy a dot dot dot.
You're not supposed to say dot dot dot.
Well, I just like to put it in there.
So our tips for today come from Mom.
Mom.
So things to think about if you're going out on the go, whether it's for yourself, for your kids, for other loved ones, having quick, easy snacks that go with you. Um, I'm doing this program right now with sugar detox, so we talk about things like um, meat sticks, like beef jerky, but finding clean options for that, chomps, different things. Um, Having fruit, having carrots. You can bring nut mixes. We were big on that with the kids, having little bags of nut mixes. Trader Joe's sells them already in little packets, single serving size, but we'd make up our own mixes as well with different nuts, sometimes chocolate chips for fun, um, raisins and other dried fruit. Having something on hand when needed. Having bottled water. Um, our son used to drink Snapple, and you'd ride in his car and you'd hear Snapple jars
Rattling in the background.
rattling in the background.
Well, and you also want to think about like if you have a senior with you or an aging loved one or whatever, you want to think about if they're diabetic or if they have different things that they need during whatever trip you're going on. You want to make sure to have that in place too.
And if you are, watching what you eat or limited, with your diet in any way, whether it's allergies or something, and you're going out to an event where there's going to be food, um, or even if there's not, eating ahead of time. Eating before you go to the grocery store is important. So, this is a big tip, especially while I'm doing the sugar detox program. Before I go out, I make sure I eat a good filling meal so that I don't feel that cravings as much for foods that I'm trying to avoid right now. So eating ahead of time, this is great with kids. Um,
Yeah, before you go to
and
grandma's or
and
before the
even if you're
holiday,
caring for an aging loved one, when they serve the food might not be their usual time for eating. And so I still remember going to we were members of Unity Church back then, and we went for a holiday meal at the church, but it was like at 2 in the afternoon or something, and our son wasn't eating very much. And I remember someone making sort of a derogatory comment. And I realized afterwards, like, he was used to eating at noon and like 6 p.m., and this was a weird time of day to be eating. It wasn't a usual time for
before we
him.
get too far into it, don't you have some jokes?
I do. Um, hey, Don, what happened after an explosion at the French cheese factory?
What happened after? I don't know what
There
happened.
was a debris everywhere. Hey, Don, since you
Hey,
make pancakes in the morning, did you hear about the man who wanted to make pancakes for breakfast but never got around to it?
no, what happened to him?
He kept waffling.
Eh, they're getting better.
And how much room should you give fungi to grow?
I don't know how much room.
As mushroom as possible.
That's better. Better than last time.
And why are butchers so hilarious?
I don't know.
Because they always ham it up. What kind of vegetable is not welcome on a ship?
I don't know what vegetable.
A leek.
A leak. Leak. Ooh, a drowning ship. All right.
So today, to market, um,
Da, da, da.
to buy. What are we buying at the market? So my first question today, Don, is how do we grocery shop? What are the ways that we go grocery shopping? So you talked about planning ahead of time, taking a young child with you to the grocery store. I know you like to have your list with you. Lately,
Mhm.
for a while now, you've been doing a meal plan for the week and then identifying what ingredients we need. And so you could go with a list to follow. But what other ways do we, average, ordinary people, go grocery shopping?
Well, they could um, Grubhub it home or call the uh, supermarket and have it planned so that when they pull up, they drop it in the trunk and go. That's
Sure.
one way.
Yeah, our middle child, she lived on her own, started doing that. Just didn't want to go walking around the store and have it all ready for her. So yeah, there's ways we can have food delivered now. Food pickup at the store, delivered to the house, and also sometimes we're running out because we're making dinner and we need the food for that night. So we
Yeah.
might be going out per meal to go pick up food at the store. And depending on how much time we have and how focused we are, we might come home with lots of other things that we may or may not need. Um,
Yes, do that.
and I mentioned earlier, if you go to the store hungry,
Yeah, that's
are
one
you going
thing.
to come home with a lot different things?
Yeah.
And what about, if you're in a hurry, you need a few things and you're running in between picking someone up, taking someone somewhere, going,
We
get
have a lot of people that want to run to a convenience store to do that, and that's not the best thing to do. But
Yeah, my next question was, where do we shop? You know, do we go to what's closest, what's most convenient? Do we have a favorite store that we prefer? Do we prefer a more health food store, whether it's a local store or a big chain like Whole Foods, or I don't know, does Earth Fare still exist? There's Sprouts, there's Aldi's, there's, I don't know the chains across the whole country, but there's lots of different stores. And I remember for a while, Don, when our kids were young, we went to multiple depending on what we were
yeah,
buying. We kind of figured out, what we could get the best price at this store. And, I remember like at some point, I tried to go to Trader Joe's once a month, and there was a Harris Teeter, we'd go to different stores.
well, we used to go to and is that discount I
Oh,
can't
the
think of
warehouse store.
warehouse store.
So
Yes,
yeah,
that kind
there's
of
in
thing
our
too.
area there's BJ's, there's Sam's,
I
but
think you got when you make up that
Costco.
plan, when you think about what you want and what, because I still do, like I'll do two different stores when I go right now, because I know, well, like for instance, Aldi's, their produce is a lot better in certain things and certainly not, so I tend to get what I need from one, get all that done, and go to Aldi's to get the things that they don't have or that are better at Aldi's. So it depends on.
You said Aldi's twice. I'm just chuckling.
Oh well,
W-
um,
We're
but
in
it
Salisbury. We also shop at Food Lion. It's
yeah, I know
um
everybody kind of looks at it, and I agree it's not always the best, but they do have they're the gluten-free section.
they've got
They
good
have a
food.
pretty good amount of food. We just have to kind of be watch.
And we're for us it's convenient. Aldi and Food Lion are across the street from us,
Yeah.
around the corner from our house, and that's our convenience. Where we live now, there's only one other grocery store up here. There might be some local small places. There is a farmer's market. We haven't checked out yet. And so thinking about, where you shop, when you shop, are you shopping with hungry people? Are you in a hurry because you've got to pick someone up or get somewhere at a certain time, get yourself to work or whatever you need to do? Um, you know,
Well,
do
and
you
there's
have that list? Are you just trying to run through the aisles and remember, and then you forget something that you really need to make a certain dish or for bring into work for lunch or a kid's lunch?
there is and it's kind of stepping back a little bit, but there is a small like Whole Foods kind of, it's not a Whole Foods, but it's a natural product little store. In fact, I see it sometimes going to take our kids to so we probably wouldn't hurt to.
What store is that?
It's right along Forsyth as you go down towards like back towards where Grammy lives, that direction. There's a
Forsyth?
there's one right on the corner of whatever that, I can't think of that street.
Forsyth. Is that a
Or
road?
is it Forsyth? I got to get this right, but what's the one go anyway? But that's beyond us. But
I
there
don't
is
know
one
where
that
Forsyth Road is, but oh, well, I'm curious about that. So,
we'll have
yeah,
to check that
finding
out.
out what's in your area, checking different things out, price comparing. Something I did years ago, and I got this from my late great aunt Rosemary, was making a grocery list based on the aisles of the store you shop. So I
Hmm.
literally went to the grocery store and wrote down aisle one had this items, two, etc. And then I created my list so that when you went to the store, it followed along the aisles. And for a while, I had one for Walmart and I had one for,
Yeah,
we used
we
to
got.
shop at Bilo, which I guess has now been bought out. Um, I had at least two of them. I can't remember later.
We had one for Trader Joe's too.
Okay. And so because every store is set up different, sometimes I shop, well, Trader Joe's is famous for being different and moving things. And we had three Charlotte area stores and they're all set up a little different, which is frustrating, especially if you're trying to follow your list along with the way the aisles are set up. So those kind of little tips and tricks. The other thing my aunt did was listed the food items that you would get in each of those aisles. And so instead of having to make a written list, you had your food items that you buy and you highlighted what you needed. And so you would just go along and highlight. And then if you needed to write anything in, we did that for a really long time.
Yeah, wouldn't hurt to do that again,
No, it
actually.
wouldn't. It was very handy to have, you can hang it on the refrigerator, have it out. People, oh, we run out of this. You highlight what you need. And so things are already written there. It's always already spelled out. So these are all great little trips and ticks,
Well,
tips
just
and tricks. I'm having trouble speaking,
just a quick note is
tongue-tied.
the comedian and I can't think of his name right now, that uses a board to draw. and he was going through different corporations and how he would rename them. And Trader Joe's was something about the uh, Trader Joe's, the small parking lot thing, because every parking lot they have apparently all over, because he was in California with it, but they're all very small. You have very compact little spots to park. But anyway, that's just a little side note.
Small parking, big, well, store filled with big stuff.
Yes.
So, and then you mentioned this in our podcast from last week where we were talking about sugar.
Mm.
Shopping around the outside of the grocery store is where you find your healthier products, your more whole foods, your produce, your meats, even cheeses and dairy products. Really, if you think about it, they're around the edges, and in the middle is all the processed stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, and thinking about how we shop and, talking about taking kids to the grocery store and teaching them things about what you're buying, looking at labels, doing price comparisons. I used to challenge my kids, which is the better buy? Because sometimes, even though it's in the larger package, you think it's discounted to buy the larger size. Walmart's notorious for this. It's actually not. Sometimes the way it's actually winds up being 5 cents more expensive to buy the larger pack, or
Well, I had that at Food Lion. We buy that big box of lettuce, and I noticed that there's a smaller portion of that, and it was on sale, but the cost of it on sale was more than buying the one big. So it was kind of the opposite, but it was kind of
well,
interesting
and
that
yeah, paying attention to that and learning how to figure that out, if especially, a lot of us, we have to think about how much we're spending. Groceries are expensive, and eating healthy can be very expensive. The cheapest foods tend to be the junkiest and the least nutritious, really, for us. And so paying attention to those things and, the meal planning, Don and I have done this some together. I credit him for doing a lot of it. And tell us, Don, tell our listeners why you tend to do the grocery shopping and not me.
well, part of it is that you tend to be a little bit more, like you go in and you want to get like three or four things, and you end up with buying a couple of them or more than what we kind of need at the moment. I'm trying to kind of keep it under a budget. Um, so, and plus I've been doing a lot more cooking, so I'm a little more attentive to what things that we have and don't have. Not that you're not, but you're just not as heavily involved, I guess, in doing the
I,
cooking as
I
much.
like to shop. We've been on a limited budget for years, and you don't feel as guilty shopping at the grocery store because you're buying food that your family needs. And I tend to overshop. I tend to, oh, we could try this. And I mean, when I shop frequently with my kids, especially my youngest, she liked to try new fruits and things. And so doing some of that could be a lot of fun. One time, goodness, this was years ago, I think with the older two, we went to, there was a local kind of healthy food store, and they had a bunch of different North Carolina mountain apples. And so we bought like 6 different varieties, and then we went home and had a taste test of which
Hmm.
which apples we preferred better. And so incorporating fun into things can be helpful. But yes, having a plan and
Well, I think with our oldest, I think we've kind of messed up a little bit because he he wants to go in and sometimes and buy out the shelvings of Zevias and things like that, which
he
a little
knows
bit
he knows how to shop for a good
uh,
sale. He
yeah,
he learned that lesson.
yeah,
He buys in bulk. He buys
a little bit over
But
sometimes.
he's really attuned to sales and things, and
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes he'll the prices of things. There's this Publix is in this area, and it tends to be a little more pricey. But he's spelled out
tuned
how
in.
when things
Yep.
are on sale there, it's a better price than some of the other stores. And
And he
yeah,
knows
he's
Harris Teeter when the because I think it's Wednesday. I think it is. I can't remember what day he said that they do like buy one get one a lot more or something like
sure.
that. So
And I
you
remember the days of coupons. I had a coupon book, coupon box. I had friends who did serious couponing, and now I went to the store with you and you pulled out your app, was
Yeah,
it?
there's a whole app that gives me the it tells me what's on process, or not process, what's on sale. It also gives me coupons for certain things, and it usually like at least once a month it gives me so many dollars off the total purchase. So I try
And
to
that's with Food
keep an
Lion,
eye on
right?
that yeah.
Um, so yeah, learning these different tips and tricks, knowing, I mean, Target, other stores have that where if you use the log into their app, whatever it is, you can get discounts and reduce prices on things. It'll alert you when things are a reduced price. And because we all want to save a little money, right, when it comes time to the grocery store.
Well, and if you're in Aldi's, there is this special aisle that is about uh for sale items, stuff that
Discounted things
discounted,
they're
all that
clearing out.
kind
Yeah,
of
that's
stuff.
the
So
danger zone for Gina because I'm like,
yeah,
ooh.
yeah, no.
Although I've learned to love a smaller grocery store because it's less overwhelming. You go in the big box store and there's just so much
Oh,
there,
Walmart,
and
yeah. Might as well
it's
take a tram from one end to
well,
the
and
other.
other
Just
big box stores. I'm trying not to name names. Um, but yeah, it's a lot to take in, and Aldi's is famous for being pretty much groceries, and there's a little bit of household items, but that's not where you go to stock up on toilet paper and things. They have some of that if you need it, but it's very focused. It's not huge. Um, to me, it's less overwhelming.
well, they're kind of, I think they are part of Trader Joe's in some way, shape, or form, but both of them kind of do some unique things that you may not always find at another store. Not tremendous amount, but different unique things. Plus, they put their name on a lot of stuff. So you find things that you don't necessarily find at other stores necessarily.
Mhm. So, how do we do this, right, Don? We sit down and we come up with meal plan ideas. We've had our kids involved in this before. They might have certain things that they enjoy eating. We tend to do this around birthdays and things, but really to do it anytime. Get involved with whoever it is you're making meals for. What do they like to eat? And incorporating some of that. Um,
Well, finding, the tough part is I do this, like I say, just every week, and it gets a little boring after a while. And so you have when I try to look for unique things, you have this plan book that you're doing right now, the Restart, that has a lot of good ideas
I've
in
got a
it.
cookbook that goes
Um,
along with it. So yeah, it
yeah.
gives.
So I try to find, something different, at least sometimes. I mean, we repeat a lot of the same stuff, but that's normal. That's no different, really.
And having, nights when we know we're busy rather than picking up, convenience food. We have nights when we know we have a lot going on, and it's our burger and fries night. And we do our own burgers, and we have an air fryer that's great for the French fries and whatever vegetable we make. And we pick up store-bought gluten-free pizza. And so planning ahead, knowing, okay, we got a lot going on that day. How can we do this easy? If are the kids going to be the ones making the food? Having things, sometimes just buying frozen meals. There's a lot of great options now for much healthier versions of frozen meals, but you do have to pay attention to things like the sugar content, the salt content, depending on your own dietary needs. Um, but getting something for quick and easy meals. I used to have a lot of these on hand because if we were running here and there, it's much less expensive. We know what we're eating, we know what we're putting in our body, having those ahead of time for buying. And we've had nights where we go to the store and we don't want to cook and we stop and like, I'll call you and which frozen dinner do you want, Don? And we'll
Yeah.
pick things up to have on hand. Those are great for lunches. If you have, somewhere you work that you can heat food up in a microwave and that. Um, yeah, and I love this restart program I'm doing. It gives you a list of what to eat. And so it goes through vegetables, fats, proteins, even spices and herbs, fruits, nuts, seeds, beverages, even. And so this is something to can look at and be like, these are things that right now, while I'm doing this program to cleanse out my system to help heal my gut and decrease my sugar intake to balance out my blood sugars and things like that. So it's a convenient list right in front of me to look at. And, there's so many different kinds of vegetables out there, things that we don't even think about. Alfalfa and artichokes and cabbage and fennel.
Well,
Those are,
we did what rutabagas this week was
and
I thought
actually,
it was really
our
good.
kids even enjoyed it. It kind of has a
Yeah.
sweet taste to it.
And we did cauliflower because the cauliflower's got a lot of, you can cut them up and do steaks out of them. You can grind them up and do it. We did
Cauliflower rice.
the well, like mashed potato kind of that
Oh,
kind of,
cauliflower mashed potatoes, cauliflower rice. Yeah, when if you're trying to avoid or limit starches or it's a lot of processed food, yeah, you can do a lot with cauliflower. But looking at different kinds of onions out there, turnips and water chestnuts, um, snow peas, scallions. There's a lot of really different kinds of vegetables out there. And really eating healthy is about eating the rainbow. Taste the rainbow, not the product that they sell in a plastic package, but a rainbow of colors, greens, purples, oranges, reds, all these different things um, are in fruits and vegetables. And for me right now, I'm limiting fruit intake because fruit does have natural sugars, and that still can spike blood sugar. If you buy green bananas, they're when they're green, they're more starchy, and as they ripen, they have more sugar content. So buying bananas that are greener, green apples have less sugar content than other apples. Lemons and limes are on my list if I can have as much of that as I want. um, and things like good fats, avocado, um, healthy meats. Best is knowing the source of where your meat is coming from, knowing how it's taken care of. But for me, ghee, if I'm trying to avoid butter products, there's ghee, um, olives, coconut oil. All these things are important in our diet. Fish oil, fish, different sources of fish. Um, and looking at different products, if you're really looking into healthy things, just looking into fermented foods. Um,
Well, we do a lot of cabbage,
and
and
yeah,
which has that kind of that fermented.
well, you have to ferment it to be fermented, done.
Oh, well, it's closest thing right now.
But yeah, learning about how foods can really help you, and it does affect how you feel. And can you meal plan ahead? Can you make two, double the batch and freeze some to have for another night
That's a
for
good
a
idea.
meal? When I was pregnant with our youngest, I think I got this idea from my good friend. We had a food shower and we had some restrictions with our diet at that time even, and we gave people lists of what we could eat, and we had some great friends that brought frozen meals and they gave us the recipe. We got two wonderful chili recipes from it. Someone made a chicken artichoke dish, and so then we had meals set for when the baby was born, and we have these great recipes to go with it. And so that can be a fun thing to do. There's apps now that you can utilize if you've got a loved one in the hospital, someone dealing with some kind of crisis of any sort, to help support those people. I set one up for my mom when my dad was one of his many trips in the hospital, and it helped my mom connect with somebody she hadn't seen in a while, and they went out to eat together. One night. And so just it's a way to connect with people,
Mhm.
and it save you the work. I have to look that up and we can put it in the notes, the name of that company that does that. But it used to be, you'd call around to different people, you'd make a list to sign up for who's bringing foods to who, to have that meal sharing kind of opportunity to do. And it's okay to ask for things like that. When you are struggling and dealing with difficult situations, maybe, someone can help support as far as supplying food. There's so many different companies now where you can order meal kits or pre-made meals that are really much more whole food than the 1970s TV dinners that come in the metal tray with there was always like a little dessert treat, like some kind of
Brownie
peach
or yeah,
cobbler or something that
yeah.
I got excited about because my mom didn't make dessert all the time. much healthier for me that we grew up that way. So, right now we're like, I will always write down if there's things I need. My guilty pleasure is my non-dairy coconut almond creamer. And so that's always on the list. Like
I don't leave the store without it.
I want to do some iced green tea. I tend to take in a lot of black tea, and I know the green tea can be a little healthier for me, and so I can make iced green tea. So I've written that down here. Going through your cabinets, these are things you can involve other family members in. Maybe even if you live with a elderly parent or something, how can they participate? Can they
Mhm.
help? Even if they write down a bunch of things that you don't really want to buy, let them make the list. There's ways that they can be helpful or at least feel like they're being helpful. Um, and you don't have to correct them. It's like with young children if they're wrong or whatever. And, I make notes of the flavors and how the quantity of things that I might want. Um, and so coming up with this list, right? It makes sense. You start with the meal plan first
Yeah.
and not just, because we used to grocery shop and then we'd come home and be like, we don't have anything for dinner.
Yeah.
Like we bought all this food, but then there
Yeah.
was no plan of what we were making. And it's sometimes you're tired especially if you
Yeah.
go grocery shopping and you get home and it's late, it's like the last thing I want to do now is stand and cook. But even though I just bought all these amazing vegetables and different things. So planning ahead because when you're buying fresh produce and things, some things are going to go bad quickly and they're going to wilt, they're going to lose their nutrient value.
So you want to plan those early, and I'm just starting to kind of learn that again because like I'll do stir fry, and that's usually we want to work that with fresh produce. So you want that like within the first day or two of after shopping.
Yeah, the
Um,
closer it is to, and that's why frozen vegetables can be great because they typically are picked and then frozen right away, and so it helps really retain their nutrients. And this year, for the first time in a very long time, I have a little garden growing just behind my kitchen in our backyard. And I'm very excited about the possibility of homegrown tomatoes, cucumbers. We have some onions out there. We have kale. We have lettuce. We have parsley. We have some peppers. And my youngest went to the store and picked these things out with me. And she's even looking forward to making some different dishes with the fresh tomatoes when they come about. It's a great way to get people excited.
I'd
Having a
start canning one of these days.
having a raised garden bed can be helpful to people who are limited with their mobility, um,
Hmm.
and making it friendly for people to help participate in that. Letting someone have their own area. This is your garden and you take care of it, whether it's a child or whether it's an elderly person, you're particular about the rest of your garden or things. Let them have their own space. This is their space. And, whatever happens, happens, depending on the person. If they're older with cognitive impairments, helping them behind the scenes to give them that feeling of success, um, and possibly even with a very young child. There was a commercial out there where there was they called it their special plant, and she pulled things off that were not things that
Yeah.
grew. And it bothered me because I'm like, we, our kids need to know where their food is coming from,
Yeah.
right? We can be so removed from the origins of our food. I think it's kind of coming back in style, so to speak. But I've always grown up with families, even my grandparents who lived in New York City. On the top of the roof, they'd have their little garden growing, growing up because they were from Italy. So they were used to fresh vegetables and things. And so potted plants, having a way to have some fresh food or fresh herbs can be really nice. If you want to use fresh herbs in a dish, you've got to buy them like day of or so because they're going to not remain fresh that way. But if you can grow them yourself, even I did try gardening in the past, and not too long ago at our old house, I did have some parsley. Um,
The ground was not the best over there where we were.
well, it's not the best here either, but we have garden beds that
Little better,
people,
but
no, the garden beds people took care of and utilized, and so there's some good soil. But I had some parsley and some other herbs growing that I could go outside and get, which was nice. To have that. So thinking about food, thinking about shopping, thinking about how food affects us. What do we enjoy eating? How can we make food more enjoyable? How can we allow others to help participate in these activities? Finding things people can do. If you have an aging loved one, maybe they can help teach you how to make a recipe. Um, they can talk you through it, or maybe if they're not that communicative, you could be making it and kind of like, is this what I do? Am I, ask them questions and just kind of entice them, get them involved, get them participating. You might be surprised if you start talking about something that's near and dear to someone a recipe they made years and years, that kind of stuff is going to be more cemented in their brain. They might be able to spark up conversation or a way of just engaging with them. Um, and so thinking about food, thinking about what we're eating, where we're shopping, our options that are available to us. And we got to work on this grocery list
and
on.
have a little fun too while you're at
Yes, finding fun in things too. Um, and so my papers are falling. That is our podcast for today. To market, to market, to buy. We hope you've enjoyed this. Please like and share this podcast, whether you're listening to it where you listen to podcasts or whether you're watching us on YouTube. Um, Share it with other people. Check out our prior podcasts. We've been doing this for 3 years, Don,
it. Yep.
and we've covered many different topics from parenting children to caring for aging loved ones and self-care, taking care of ourselves while doing all these other things. Be on the lookout for Ask the OT and some pointers and short videos about things that you can do in caring for aging loved ones. Learn more about Don and I at our website at focusedhealthyfamily.com. We're on Facebook at Focused Healthy Family. Our Instagram account is Focused Healthy Family 1. Again, YouTube is at Focused Healthy Family. Join us each Thursday when we air these podcasts. And be sure to tune in. We've done lots of interviews with all kinds of people. And please let us know things that you might want to hear, conversations you'd like to have. Let us know what your favorite things are. Give us positive and negative feedback on the podcast. And
Stay tuned for my EFT every week, Tuesdays, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And we do it by Zoom. And you can find the links for all of it on focusedhealthyfamily.com/EFT-group.
if you want to connect with Don and I in consulting in any fashion, whether it's caring for aging loved one, juggling these responsibilities of being in the sandwich generation and also the EFT work, please reach out to us, message us, check out our website. And as always, remember, how you speak to your children and your loved ones today shapes their future and yours.